10:01, so.
Okay, we're good.
Miss Leanne's computer say 10:01.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, Wednesday, July 13th, 2022, taking place in person here in the Commissioners Conference Room at the Lincoln County Courthouse, being live streamed on YouTube and also recorded for later broadcast on the county YouTube channel. All three commissioners are present, so we do have a quorum today. No scheduled recognition or proclamations, so we move on to the consent calendar, routine items or items reviewed at previous meetings. Do staff or any commissioners wish to either highlight or remove any item from the consent calendar?
I'll move.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say no comments for me, and I will make a motion that we adopt the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second for approval of the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is ordered. We don't have a public hearing scheduled today, so we move on to a couple of decision and action items. The first is the award of our annual nonprofit social service grants. And it says presentation by administrative staff. We have anybody teed up to do that?
I can answer any questions you might have.
And Mr. Miller did provide staff support to this year's committee. I don't know if we've got any, I don't know, you may have questions. I really don't. We've thoroughly vetted this at a previous meeting. This program has paid out, several $1 million to a variety of nonprofits in Lincoln County through the years. We've got a record 29 agencies receiving funding this year, splitting up a pie of $210,000. I think we began some steps to kind of take a fresh look at the program, do some reorganization and streamlining. We started that work this year, but I really hope we continue next year, especially trying to bring some maybe focus back on the program. All of these things are certainly worthwhile, but maybe looking at some larger goals or missions for the program, but that's just my opinion. So commissioners, comments?
Yeah, I have one comment and one question. I guess my comment is just sort of similar to yours. We actually did have kind of a facilitator come in and do some work on this program previous to this year with our former staff member, Christy Peter, who worked on this grant and kind of looking at where it should sort of be directed or go in the future. I think the issue and kind of that report that came out is actually a lot of the people that were interviewed, which were kind of past award recipients, don't really want it to have focus. They like it being broad because of course that's, how they get funding. But, I do look at the total pot, which is about 210, and the need to have a true homeless shelter in Lincoln County or some other needs that we continually have. And that would do it. That would almost, run one. And we certainly did give money to Coastal Support Services and other organizations that do those activities. So it's not like we're not contributing. But I do think similar to how we looked at our community and economic development grant a couple of years ago and pulled part of that pot for specific funding on childcare, housing or broadband. I think we could look at doing something similar with this, where maybe we kept part of the pot kind of open for different agencies, and then, had a real focus pot on something that we wanted to accomplish specific. Just some thoughts for next year. And then just maybe a reminder, because we do have a lot of new staff coming in and we're kind of down to just a couple of staff. Is previously when we had awards from this program that went out to religious organizations, of course, the funding we give them can't be for religious activities. And then looking at the application for these. That is the case. However, just a reminder to staff that we did have those particular organizations sign something making them aware that they couldn't use those monies for religious activities. It had to be for truly social service activities, and that people or citizens couldn't have to jump through religious hoops to get that service. So just a reminder that we need to make sure we do that with a couple of the applicants on here. That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Hunt?
Well, I'll just note that it's $210,000 this year. These are general funds. That's in my mind the gold, because that money can be spent however we decide is in the best interests of the county. Whereas road funds and other dedicated funds can only be spent for specified services. So I think the fact that these funds are available, I believe they've been increased. Seems to me recently it was about $165,000. So on a percentage basis, that's a pretty significant 25-30% increase. And again, these funds are for operating purposes, which are the difficult funds for nonprofit agencies to generate. So I think the value of this program really is in the fact that it provides operating funds to these agencies. I continue to emphasize the hope that they will work for matching funds. That was the idea behind this program originally. An opportunity for these nonprofit agencies to support their operations, but at the same time work to generate more funds dedicated to their specific objectives. So with that, I think we've made some progress. And I do have one question, Mr. Miller. There's only one agency that's listed as a zero. As I remember the list, there were others that were not funded.
So I pulled all the zeros, but looks like I left one there. But yeah,
Okay.
there were a
So there,
few
I think
others.
that's important to note that that agency wasn't singled out as the only agency
Yes.
that wasn't funded. There were a handful. So
I'll get
that answers my
corrected.
question. Thank you. And I think this is a great program, and look forward to continuing to work to improve it.
With that, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the private nonprofit social service agency allocation program funding allocations. Oh, that's interesting. For fiscal year 2022-2023.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. And now we move on to designation of newspaper for foreclosure publication bids. And we have a presentation from the folks at our tax office. And if you'd both introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Yes, Jane Welch, Lincoln County Treasurer Tax Collector. The tax collector is in charge of the foreclosure process, as is the deputy.
I'm Ashley Land, the property tax deputy for the tax department.
Okay.
So I guess, not sure what the main objective is, just to kind of summarize what we're, okay. So we normally this year go out for publication bids for the the current year's foreclosure list. And this year was a little bit different than normal. We usually get, 2 bids, usually from the News Guard and also from the News Times, and they'll provide a bid and then we'll submit that to you. This year is a little different because I was speaking with David Thornberry from the News Guard, and it's my understanding that the News Times holds the print presses for both publications. So they essentially provided a what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a dual publication.
A joint bid essentially. So And I kind of clarified with them because I noticed the cost was a little different from last year, so I was trying to understand if that was in conjunction with publishing in 2 papers, or if that was just, the new cost of doing business. And they kind of described it as the fees have gone up, but they also want to provide us more value for, the price that we pay. And they thought the best way to do that would be to offer the publication in both newspapers so as to reach more of the public, which is kind of nice. The biggest consideration of that is while the publication would be on the same date for both publications, they have a different deadline, by which we would have to submit our list. And we have a new tax system this year, which kind of gives us a little less control over when we put the 5% publication fee on each of the tax accounts. Because as a general practice, we like to give taxpayers as much time as possible to make payments before we send out that foreclosure list. So it looks like the News Times would require us to submit our list by August 22nd for publication on the 24th of August, and the News Guard would require the list by the 19th of August for the same publication date. So that would just be with the new system, kind of once we've initialized publication, the fee is on there. So it kind of just changes things a little bit. We'll have to have a hard and fast date for when they can pay. A little less wiggle room as far as when we can keep that fee from going on. So.
But essentially, this is something you can work with, you feel? Okay.
Yeah, I think we would have to go with the earlier date just to keep it consistent.
Okay. And just maybe for a little context for people who are watching the meeting, it is required by state law that the county commissioners each year approve a newspaper for publication of the yearly foreclosure list. So that's what we're doing here today. Usually we've only had one bid or a separate bid from the 2 general circulation newspapers in the county, but this is something a little bit new, a partnership. Questions, comments?
Just from council here.
Yes.
Thank you. The board has before it the draft order, and although there's cooperation and these other things are going on, the order itself does designate the Newport News Times as the newspaper of general circulation. It is this order that is before you for your consideration.
So I have a question. Ashley, you said the new system, the new program. Could you expand on that? What is it and how has it affected this process?
Yeah, so we used to use OTC, which allowed for a lot more kind of manual data entry kind of. So if we sent our
Is OTC a software program?
Yes,
Okay.
and then we're using a new system that essentially we used to be able to kind of initialize our list to get it ready for publication ahead of time. And then if we still had that list in hand before we've submitted it, we can, and someone comes in to pay their delinquent taxes, and we can remove that fee off of there. And they're not penalized because they made it in by the time or the deadline, basically. With this new system, it doesn't really, in the old system, it also, like, if you change the effective date based on when they're paying, if it's before the publication date that the system recognizes, it would remove that fee. In the new system, it's not date driven. It appears, I mean, we've only been using it for a short time, but once it's been initialized in the system, it's kind of stuck there. Does that
So to just preface the question, Commissioner Hunt, our old software system came from DOS-based in the 1980s. We're now current web-based. We started our new software program June 22nd of 2022. And so it's really fairly new to us. It seems to be proven to be a great system thus far. It does make a few things cumbersome, as Ashley mentioned about the dates and whatnot, but we're getting through and making some good progress.
Well, you've confirmed what I suspected in that we did get new tax software, and these changes are really a reflection of the new software.
Correct.
And I see the entire IT department behind you nodding their heads affirmatively. So I think that explains it. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments, and one is I'm actually really happy to see the News Times and the News Guard working together. I feel like in the 3 years I have been here, every year, regardless of who we awarded the bid to, the other one was upset. So I'm glad that they have kind of joined together. And also, I mean, not just for that, but also, to have it in both papers, I think just more widely makes it available and to the whole public. So I'm glad that they're working together. Just while we're talking about paying taxes and foreclosed property, Jane, how long till someone stops paying taxes till they end up in the paper on the foreclosure list? And also, if you haven't paid your property taxes, who would you contact, and like what programs might there be to sort of help you catch up?
Well, the process takes quite a long time. It's about a 6.5-year process. To get on the publication, you have to have 3 years plus current, meaning 4 years of tax due and owing. Then we go through quite a process. Did you want to speak on that, or would you like me to do that?
Sure. So I'll use this year as an example. So for properties that have delinquent taxes from 2018 and prior, they would be subject to foreclosure this year. So after we send out the initial delinquency notices in May, then that is followed up by a first and second foreclosure notice. And then we come to the publication. And then once we take judgment on the properties, which is no sooner than 30 days after publication, 2 years from the date of that judgment, they have to redeem the property. So, and then if it does not get redeemed, then it would be deeded to the county. It's a, like she said, about a 6.5-year process.
Yeah, and I had 7 in my head, but I just wanted the public to be aware of that. This isn't, you're 30 days late and you
Right.
end up in the newspaper. This is a long process. Yeah.
And foreclosures are statutorily driven, and we follow all the process to the letter of the law, of course.
Mhm.
And we try and reach out. Our county, Lincoln County, goes the extra mile, and we actually give courtesy calls to people and say, you're getting close to publication, so you might want to come in and pay,
Mhm.
whatever you can, and do whatever you can do to avoid those extra added costs.
Mhm. And so is there, payment plans or specific programs that if people get behind on, they might qualify for, or?
We do not have payment plans. It's up to the individual owners to make those arrangements for themselves.
Okay, thank you.
There are programs out there. Used to be a program called OHSI that will reach out to people and help them. We supply the list to those folks to give that added extra help, and that program is now designated as the HAP program. So
Okay,
people can go online and Google that and maybe get some assistance that way.
okay, thank you.
So I have a follow-up. You talked about fees and costs. Do those delinquent taxes not accrue interest?
They do. They
Okay.
accrue interest at 16% annually, or 1.33% per month. The penalty for publication is 5%.
So it gets pretty expensive.
It gets very expensive.
Okay.
So we encourage people to try and pay if they can, at least that oldest year before publication hits.
Yeah. Hopefully it provides some good motivation.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion then.
Okay. I will make a motion that we designate the Newport News Times for a foreclosure publication.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor of designating the News Times as the newspaper for publication of the 2022 Lincoln County foreclosure list, please say aye.
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 Aye. It's so ordered. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we move on to reports, and first Commissioners' report. And I would like to talk about the homeless pilot grant that the county has received, and this office and HHS will be kind of organizational programming drivers with good partnership from the city of Newport. And after our last group meeting, one of the tasks asked of each jurisdiction is to name a representative and a backup to the advisory committee that will be overseeing this project over its 2-year life. That was included in the state House Bill 4123. So we had 4 cities at the table, 4 of the incorporated cities at the table. At this last meeting, we're still trying to encourage the other 3 to be at the table as well. County, of course, and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz. So I would like to propose, if my colleagues are agreeable, that I be named the primary representative on this and that Commissioner Katie Jacobson be the alternate.
I support that.
Yeah, I support that.
Okay, should we formalize it with a vote just to get it on the record? I would think that would be good.
I'll move to appoint Chair Hall as our primary contact and Commissioner Jacobson as a secondary contact in the homeless project grant program.
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And if it could be noted in the record that a copy of these minutes be sent to Newport City Manager Spencer Niebel, who's providing logistical support for the project as we get things underway. Other commissioner reports.
Commissioner Hunt, anything?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. One is speaking of kind of homelessness. And I forget if I have mentioned this here or not, so I may have already, but the state through the Oregon Office of Emergency Management will now actually provide staff to communities for warming and cooling shelters. There is state temperature triggers that they use. I actually don't like the temperature triggers for the warming shelter because I think it's just a temperature, and here with rain and wind, totally different story. But anyways, the good news is they do actually provide staff, and I think that is a complete game changer in terms of being able to have a warming and cooling shelter in Lincoln County. So I am working on getting OEM together with people from all of our cities to talk about how we utilize that resource. There's a lot of questions I still have on if this is one shelter per county, or they'd send staff to multiple locations, or how exactly that works and what kind of notice they need. If we can use forecasts of weather, if it has to actually be that particular temperature in order to call them in, all of that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll have a meeting and get ourselves kind of prepared for winter. And like I said, if they're actually able to provide staffing, I think it's a huge game changer for us in rural communities. Additionally, last week I applied for additional funds through the state to continue with help for wildfire recovery, and specifically to work on getting rid of a lot of the downed trees that were taken out by various parties after the fire, but then the trees and brush were left there. And so now we have debris that's 2+ years old and very dry sitting on the back of someone's brand new house. And if any of you have ever, chainsawed up a tree, I know you have, because I think you hit yourself with a chainsaw. Anyways,
My toe is still.
your
on
toe.
my foot.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a lot of work. It's very hard. You have to have the tools to do it. And there's several properties that have brush and debris all around them and aren't able to physically do the work. So hopefully the state will come through on that funding. And then additionally, I just got notice this morning that the state is going after Community Development Block Grants, which is a federal program for wildfire recovery specific to housing and infrastructure. It's a $42 million grant. And I'm meeting with them hopefully early next week to talk about what Lincoln County's allocation of that will be, but likely we'll be looking at several $1 million coming into the county, specifically looking at trying to create some housing opportunities for people that, 2-3 years later are still in unstable housing. So exciting that hopefully there's still some more resources coming.
Excellent.
That's it for me.
Well,
Commissioner
I
Hunt.
thought one of my fellow commissioners would mention the fact that all three of us attended the county symposium on overdose and drugs. Commissioner Hall, Chair Hall, had the honor of opening remarks, and Vice Chair Jacobson had the honor of closing remarks. And I was there particularly for the panel that had representatives from the tribe, Samaritan Health, the Sheriff's Office, and other agencies. So overall, I thought it was a good step. Judge Bockhart, presiding Judge Bockhart, was also present, along with District Attorney Danforth. So good representation of the agencies, I think, that are really most closely involved in addressing that serious issue for our county. So all three of us, again, were there. We did not sit at the same table for lunch. We did not discuss county business, and certainly honored the philosophy behind public meeting laws. So with that, I will clarify the fact that yes, I did cut the leather in my shoe and the skin across the top of my toe, but fortunately did not damage any blood vessels, nerves. Well, it bled, but nothing serious. So it was frankly very fortunate for me.
Indeed. Yeah, I will echo your comments, Commissioner Hunt, that I think the overdose symposium was a great event. Kudos to the HHS team that did the planning and the organization. A lot of information presented. I think, a lot of statistics maybe some of us are already aware of, and others that were really staggering. I mean, I think it helped bring into focus the extent of the challenge we have, but there already is work going on locally to meet it. And I think it just shows the importance of working on bringing in new resources and strengthening existing collaborations and building new ones as we seek to make some headway against this deadly crisis.
Yeah, and one of the statistics that was talked about yesterday that really got me was that in this county, not in Oregon, but in this county, I think, and they said the last 3 months, there was an 11-year-old that overdosed. It was not a fatality, I believe, but just really serious that we're doing that. And the other thing that really struck me was Ruby Moon from the Confederate Tribes of Siletz Indians, who works in public health there, had a nice quote that the opposite of addiction is connection. And I just really liked that as we remember, as we go through this crisis in our community, that it's, connection that everybody needs. So appreciated that. And just a big thank you to public health and all of our partners that put that on.
So I'll also try to correct an error. Recognizing people has some inherent challenges, but Representative Gomberg was there, as were mayors from 3 cities, Toledo, Newport, and Lincoln City.
And
So,
Sheriff Landers was also there.
he was.
All right, nothing else in commissioner reports? Then ask Todd Richmond to come forward. This is an update and special recognition for the folks in our information technology department here at the county. And I'm sure we'll hear much more about Todd, but over the weekend, we began a migration from the Google platform to Microsoft Outlook. And hopefully, and as far as I know, there's been no impacts on people doing business with the county. It's required some adjustment on the part of staff, but I just want to say upfront, I think due to many weeks of planning and hard work on your part and by your team who's here today, it has gone much more smoothly than I think most people anticipated. So your report from the trenches, please, sir.
Hi, Todd Richmond, IT Director. Thanks for having me. First, I'll give you some numbers. We migrated almost 5 terabytes of data, over 2.5 million emails over the weekend. It's went a lot faster than we had hoped. So the MX records, which without giving you a DNS lesson, is how people find our email servers. That updated really quickly. It was updated 4 o'clock on Saturday morning. So everything was working well. So there was that short period where we didn't know where mail was going, but it's all come through. Our biggest challenge has been with our distribution lists. We kind of expected it to be a problem. People with external addresses, not co.lincoln.or.us, have had trouble emailing those lists and getting the responses, but we hope to have that finished today by 5. And that will leave us just sort of settling in. The project will go on for us for another 2 or 3 weeks while we configure security settings that we couldn't do until everybody was live. And then sometime in August, we'll be turning on 2-factor authentication. So everybody will need to find their blue keys that they've probably lost. We'll buy a bunch, so it's not a big deal.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that lost mine, Doug, if you're laughing.
I'm
Means
pretty
you
sure I
lost
never
it.
had one.
If I had one, I have no idea what it looks like.
Okay.
It's
all right.
Apologies, Director Richmond.
We'll get you some.
Great.
I do want to also point out that not only were we doing this particular migration during this time, but we also finished our migration on the Orion project, which is the new software that the tax and treasurers use. That was a huge project as well, that just happened to coincide with the big work for this project. So we've been working for a year, and I'm pretty happy with how things have come out. Our problems that we're getting are more, how does Outlook do this? Instead of, I can't find my stuff. So it looks like everything's been moved. We'll continue to do migration passes just in case for the rest of the week. And we'll be good. Any questions? Anything I can clarify?
Bill?
Well, I'll have a question. There is a reason that we switched from Google to the Microsoft platform. I'll let you explain.
Yeah, so it was a cost savings thing. And it saves us significant money. This year, it saves us $205,000. The Google Vault, which is our archive, as soon as we get out of that, will save us another $100,000 a year. So that's $305,000 ongoing savings every year for perpetuity. So it's been a really good choice for us. We really appreciate everybody's help and willingness to make this change to save the county significant dollars.
Well, I just want to say a big thank you. I'm usually pretty optimistic, but I was pretty pessimistic on how horrible Monday was going to be. But it was awesome. Everything kind of came in pretty easily, real just kind of minor stuff. And, I think for a lot of the public watching this, they're going to say, I didn't know you guys converted over the weekend. And that's the point. So well done, IT team. It was really, I think, a mostly flawless transition as far as I'm concerned. A few little issues here and there, but calendar, at least on my end, transferred over, emails transferred over, and business was going as usual. So thanks for all your hard work on that.
Thank you.
And it is good to have your entire team here to, if nothing else, make sure they all took a few minutes break from what I know has been a very stressful and demanding time. And also we have letters of thanks from the Board of Commissioners. Todd, would you join me in presenting them? Calling you folks forward as Well, or the addresses inside.
Yeah, James?
Yay.
What? Yeah, let's
Okay.
get the group together for a photo.
Yeah, so if you don't mind staying up here for a couple minutes.
Okay, Jeff, come on down.
Todd, you might want to introduce the positions.
Yeah, can I do that again?
Yeah,
go ahead,
Sure.
yeah.
please. Jason. Kevin is not here. He is-
Okay.
is ill. Mark? Richard? Sarah? And Theodore. Now that we've done this, let me introduce everybody. We have James Lawson. He's a technician for us. He's been with us a couple months, 3 months? Yeah. Almost 3 months. We've got Jeffrey McAllister. He's also a technician. Been here about a year, right? Jason Pace, he's a sysadmin. He's been here since dirt was green. 8 years? 11 years. 11 years. Mark Woods is also system administrator. And you've been here 9 years. Richard Coggins is our help desk, which is a very key position for this conversion. You've been with us almost three. Sarah Ashard is our purchasing agent and my assistant, and she's been here for 8 years. 9 in November. Theodore Snyder is a technician, and he's been here for a little under a year. I'd like to tell the board in particular that several of my team have worked sick from home for multiple hours to get this on schedule and on time and on budget. So they've done an excellent job, and I'm very proud of my team.
You should be.
You should be.
Should be.
And Todd, how long have you been here? You didn't say that.
14 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, just
Thanks to all of you. Oh, and let's let Mr. Miller get some team pictures.
2, 1. Thank you, IT.
Thank you.
I have some balloons or noisemakers, but still.
I'd like to say that I think anytime you go through a conversion, you kind of hope that it's not a total disaster, but I'm going to knock on wood and say in this case, I think we had a pretty total success, which is extraordinarily rare in these types of conversions. So outstanding work, and my thanks to all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
We're now at the point in the agenda where we open the floor for public comment. And Mr. Miller, is there anyone online who wants to offer public comment? If so, please use the raise hand function on Zoom right now. Doesn't appear to be anyone. Also, here in the room, we have staff only. Don't have anybody signed up. What about our smart sheet where people can submit written comments
No written comment.
on any topic this week? All right, then there's no other business to come before the board. We'll remind everyone that we meet twice next week on our usual schedule. Monday, July 18th, 10 a.m. for our office staff meeting. Wednesday, July 20th, also at 10 a.m. For the public business meeting of the Board of Commissioners, both of these to be conducted in person in this room and over the Zoom platform. Until then, we're